Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, text 38. Dhumena vriyate vahnir yadha darsho malena cha yadholbena vruto garbhas tadha tenedamavrutam. Now Krishna explained in the previous verse that a living entity, he commits sinful activities because of the force of kama and krodha. And now he explains to what degree this kama is covering this living entity. He mentions three different degrees. So first he mentions how this kama covers the living entity just like the smoke covers the fire. Dhumena avriyate vahnihi. Vahni means fire. Fire carries the offerings that we offer in sacrifice to the Lord. The Vahana means vehicle to carry. Vahni. So Vahnihi means fire. So just like Vahni is avriyate, is covered by Dhumena. Dhumena means smoke. And yadha Dhumena avriyate Vahni yadha adarshaha. Adarsha means mirror. Malena cha. Mirror is covered by mala means dust. So fire is covered by smoke. Mirror is covered by dust. And yadha ulbena avruto garbhaha. Garbha means the embryo. When somebody, a woman becomes pregnant, she becomes garbhavati. So garbha means the embryo within the womb. The yatha ulbena means womb. Just like the womb is covering this embryo. Ulbena avrutaha. Tadha tena idam avrutam. Idam lust. By that lust, tena idam, this living entity is covered avrutam. So fire is covered by smoke, mirror is covered by dust, and the embryo is covered by the womb. So when such coverings happen, the living entity cannot see properly. Even though the living entity is like the fire, it cannot exhibit its full influence until the smoke is cleared. If the living entity is like a mirror, unless the dust is cleared from the mirror, he cannot see clearly who he is. Because of lack of such vision, we consider ourselves to be somebody different. Isn't it? In the mirror, sometimes you might have applied tilak, but because of the blur, you might see that the tilak is in a wrong shape. Then you may try to correct it, and it might even spoil, and things like that. Because you don't see clearly because the mirror is covered by the dust. So these three different kinds of examples Krishna gives represents the various degrees of lust present in different living entities. The fire example means that the living entity is still fiery, but it's covered by smoke, but by fanning it, we can resurrect that fire. Just like a spark, you fan it, isn't it? It becomes full-blown fire. But if the mirror covered by dust, so the fire covered by smoke is referring to the human beings who are having the opportunity to resurrect their Krishna consciousness. We have to fan that spark. Whereas mirror covered by dust, it is lower than human beings. It's the birds and beasts and so on and so forth. And if the lust is like embryo covered by womb, it is even lower species like trees and plants. So that means the human species has the best opportunity to fan that spark. If we misuse that opportunity, we will become gradually degraded into lower and lower species. And if you are like the lust is covering you like the womb is covering the embryo, it is very difficult. So you have to gradually transmigrate from the lower species all the way to human species, before which you can have any hope of resurrecting your Krishna consciousness. So even in human species, there are 400,000 human species, and there are many people who are almost like animals. They live only for sense gratification. Or those who are envious of God, envious of Krishna, for them it is very difficult to fan that spark. They will mostly degrade to lower species. But even among such people, sometimes you see there are people interested in Krishna consciousness, especially when we go knock doors distributing literature, Bhagavad Gitas. We find people from different parts of the world who are not even able to chant the name Krishna. When we ask them to chant Hare Krishna mantra, they cannot chant even the name Krishna. But somehow Krishna will give them credit. Their life changes the moment they even utter the name Krishna. But some people, they just shut the door. But people who are innocent, who are not very envious of God, who are keen to or open to progress, their spark can be fanned. So Krishna consciousness is basically fanning that spark, including ourselves. We have to fan our own spark, and anybody who we find who have that spark, we have to fan that spark. Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that principle. It doesn't matter if they are lower species, if they are in the lower category among human species. Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkasha abhira shumbha yavana khasadayah yenye cha papa yadapashrayashrayah shuddhyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. So all these lower species or sinful species are mentioned, who have gone away from the Vedic culture. Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha. These are all different categories of sinful people that exist in this world. Maybe not in these names, but Prabhupada in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam mentions, he maps these people where they live and all of that. They are completely devoid of God consciousness and full of sinful habits. But even then, even those people, yenyecha papa yad apashrayashrayaha, if they surrender to take shelter of a pure devotee, shuddhyanti, they can become cleansed. A classic example is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one time, it's very interesting. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to Vrindavan along with his two associates. And on the way, they also meet a couple of other associates, a Brahmana and a Rajput soldier who has that soldier background. They'll be assisting the Lord and they'll be walking. And suddenly the Lord sees a cowherd boy playing flute on the field. And he becomes immediately, he remembers Krishna. He's always in Krishna consciousness. He's always remembering Krishna wherever he sees. So he goes into ecstasy, thinking of Krishna, and he falls down, losing his external consciousness. And then on the way, so that area happens to be ruled by these, at that time, the Muslim kings. So the Muslim soldiers would be going by and they see these associates are surrounding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sannyasi. And then these people get down and they approach them and they see that something is happening here. They suspect that these people are the goons trying to loot a sannyasi. They would have given some poison and they are trying to loot him and all of that. And they come and try to arrest them. And these associates, the Brahmanical associates, become quite terrified. Whereas this Rajput soldier, he starts to warn them, hey, I can call my people, I can clap and shout, and people will come and chastise you. Don't dare to do this, and all of that. And then while this commotion is happening, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets up, comes up to from his comes to his external consciousness, and then tells them, hey, don't do this. These are all my associates. So they help me. Sometimes I have this disease. Being humble, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls it as a disease. Epilepsy, I lose my consciousness, and these people help me bring back to consciousness. So these people, they understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a divine personality, and they have a conversation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a conversation with them. He preaches to them about Krishna consciousness, and then he proves them from their own literature, Quran literature. He concludes that Quran also establishes love of God, whereas the people who wrongly interpret, they only explain the impersonal aspect. So he asks this question to that one of the soldiers, the head of the soldiers, Vijuli Khan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's a learned man as well. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, seeing your own Quran and deliberating over what is written there, what is your conclusion? And that saintly Muslim, he replies, so all that you have said is true. This has certainly been written in the Quran, but our scholars can neither understand nor accept it. And usually they describe the Lord's impersonal aspect, but they hardly know that the Lord's personal feature is worshipable. They are undoubtedly lacking this knowledge. Since you are the very same Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, please be merciful upon me. I am fallen and unfit. I have studied the Muslim scripture very extensively, but from it I cannot conclusively decide what the ultimate goal of life is or how I can approach it. Now that I have seen you, my tongue is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The false prestige I felt from being a learned scholar is now gone. So saying this, the saintly Muslim, he falls at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and requests him to speak the life's ultimate goal and the process by which it can be obtained. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very merciful and tells him, please get up, my dear. You have chanted the holy name of Krishna. Therefore, the sinful reactions that you have accrued for many millions of lives are now gone. You are now pure. And he tells all of them there, chant the holy name of Krishna. And they all begin to chant, overwhelmed by ecstatic love of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this way, he directly initiated that Muslim by advising him to chant the holy name of Krishna. And that Muslim's name was changed, just like at the time of initiation, our Karmi name is changed. So that Muslim's name is changed to Ramadas. And so this was the learned scholar. There was another Muslim, I was telling, Vijuli Khan, that was another Muslim. This was the learned scholar who becomes Ramadas. The Vijuli Khan was this young, he was the son of the king. And these other people, the Muslim servants, they were his servants, Pathans. So this Vijuli Khan, the son of the king, also falls down at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord places his lotus feet on his head and he bestows his mercy. And all these Pathan Muslims then become mendicants, being surcharged with Krishna consciousness and the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And later on, these Pathans, they became celebrated as the Pathan Vaishnavas. And they toured all over the country and chanted the glorious activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this Vijuli Khan became a greatly advanced devotee, and his importance was celebrated at every holy place of pilgrimage. So, the conclusion was in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes. Coming to the western part of India, he bestowed good fortune upon the Yavanas and Mlechas. As you can see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed by his example that anybody can be raised to Krishna consciousness, irrespective of their background, their habits. We need to fan that spark. But of course, some envious people, we cannot. We have to fan the spark of those who are innocent and eager and open, and upeksha, leave those who are envious, because they'll commit more offenses and they'll go down further on that path. So upeksha, let Maya cook them further with tribulations, and one day maybe they will come to that point to understand, to become sincere about God consciousness. Similarly, you see in Bhagavatam, there was this king Chitraketu who becomes very morose because his son dies at a very young age because of the scheme, conspiracy done by his queens. Because the son is born to the elderly queen, and the king is neglecting all these other queens. So the queens become so envious. See what all this envy does to the living entity. And they scheme and poison this child and kill this child. And Chitraketu is plunged into the ocean of distress. And at that time, Narada Muni comes and preaches to him about Krishna consciousness. And Chitraketu becomes enlightened. So Narada Muni gives him the special prayers called Mahavidya prayers, the great knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And Chitraketu, he becomes aroused with this enlightenment, and he starts to chant these prayers continuously for 1 week only, but fully dedicated. He was fasting and he was drinking only water, and with full care and attention, he was chanting that mantra given by Narada Muni. And he achieved the audience of the Lord, and he achieved the rule of the Vidyadhara planet. Because of his spiritual advancement, he became one of the associates. He was associating with great personalities. And so when the Lord appeared, this Chitraketu was praying, and in one of his prayers, he says very interestingly, very related to what we are discussing, he says, "My Lord, it is not impossible for one to be immediately freed from all material contamination by seeing you." See, that means it's possible for one to become immediately freed from all material contamination by seeing the Lord. Not to speak of seeing you personally, merely by hearing the holy name of your Lordship only once. Even Chandalas, men of the lowest class, are freed from all material contamination. Under the circumstances, who will not be freed from material contamination simply by seeing you? So that means the Lord is so great that anybody, irrespective of their position, Swadopi Sadyah Shavanaya Kalpate, Yannamadheya Shravananukirtanat Yah Prahvanad Yat Smaranadapi Kvachit Swadopi Sadyah Savanaya Kalpate Kutah Punaste Bhagavannu Darshanat. This Yannamadheya means the Lord's holy name. When one hears Shravana Anukirtanat and chants or remembers Yat Smaranadapi Kvachit Swado api, even though one may be a dog eater, a chandala, lower species, abominable activities one may be born with or may be doing. Sadhyaha savanaya kalpate. Immediately, sadhya means immediately. The power of the holy name is so pure. When you chant without offenses, it cleanses all your sinful reactions. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told that Muslim, because you chanted Hare Krishna mantra with clean heart and without any motive, your sinful reactions became vanquished. So similarly, a Swadaha, a Chandala may chant holy name and he becomes as qualified to perform Vedic sacrifices, just like a proper Brahmana. Savanaya Kalpate. So that is the power of the holy name. So for the human beings, especially in this age, especially born in countries where there is no opportunity to hear about Krishna, this is the only opportunity. This is the only means of deliverance. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates and the devotees coming in line with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, the reason why Prabhupada sends his devotees to different parts of the world is because there are people who are not as fortunate as we are. They have not heard about Krishna. So we need to make them fortunate. Unfortunately, sometimes people ask this question. So why humans are sometimes born in countries and cities where there is no opportunity for them to hear about Krishna? The reason is that they desired to be away from Krishna, but because of some previous pious credits, they got the birth as a human being. That is why they are born in those particular places where there is no opportunity for God consciousness. However, Bhagavatam says that it is a duty of everybody to give God consciousness, particularly the government, particularly the parents, particularly the relatives and teachers, everybody who is in authority position, they are supposed to give God consciousness to people who are born in their country. And if they don't, then it is they have to be responsible. They will be evaluated. They will be punished for missing out on their essential duty. Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan na patischa sasyat, namo chayetyat samupeta mrutyam. So Bhagavatam says, don't be a guru if you cannot deliver your disciple, if you cannot give Krishna consciousness. You see many gurus on the internet, they speak, but you see their talk. Is there Krishna in their talk, or they are trying to promote themselves? Are they saying Krishna is one of the demigods? You can worship anything, ultimately you can go to God, or you can become God. So we have to evaluate this. Anybody and everybody cannot be guru. One who is unable to give Krishna consciousness cannot be guru. So Guru Nasasya, don't be guru if you cannot deliver your disciple. Swajano Nasasya, don't take guardianship of anybody. Don't become a relative and boast that you are such and such if you cannot give Krishna consciousness. One time one devotee came to me, one Mataji. She was crying And I asked why. She said, Prabhu, I come to temple and I go back and start to practice Krishna consciousness. My uncle came and told, oh, we have our own tradition. Why are you forgetting our own tradition? We don't do all of this. So we don't worship Krishna. We worship this and this and this. And he was chastising me like that. So I have so much trouble to practice. So this is the situation. So Swajana is supposed to educate people about Krishna consciousness, not take away with their so-called. So why are you accepting some guru? That means he is acting as guru, isn't it? He wants to be guru and control his niece. So guru na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat. Don't become a father, you cannot deliver Krishna to your child. Don't be a devata if you cannot route your worshippers to Krishna. So don't become a mother, don't become a father if you cannot give Krishna consciousness. So don't become a leader of the country. The Rajarshis have to give Krishna consciousness. So another time, another colleague was asking me a few years ago, "Wow, why do you have to read Bhagavad Gita? I'm living a happy life. I'm following this, I don't follow these principles, but I'm still happy and I do my work nicely, I do my duties nicely, and I don't care." So one devotee gave a wonderful analogy. It's like you're working in a company and the company is providing you everything like nice desk to work, nice air conditioned room, and nice facilities, salary and your retirement benefits, and even food. Many companies offer their food, the food. And now you say, you come to the office and say, I don't care for my boss. I want to do my own thing. Is it reasonable? In fact, you are culpable to be punished, isn't it? Because everything is provided by the company, the CEO, and you say, I don't care, I'll do my own thing. So it's like that. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarchya. Krishna is the origin of everything. From Krishna, we are being maintained. Everything is Krishna's energy, is corporate. We are working. So swakarmana tam abhyarchya. By our work, whatever it is, doesn't matter. We have to worship Him. That is our duty. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.